Natasha Ogeen, the Deputy Commissioner for the Chicago Film Office. On behalf of Mayor Brandon Johnson and DK's Commissioner Kenya Merritt, we welcome everyone to the Chicago Cultural Center. Chicago is honored to serve as the 2026 International Host City for International Jazz Day, reflecting the city's global cultural leadership. Jazz is deeply rooted in Chicago's history, shaped by generations of artists, as obviously represented by Mr. Herbie Hancock, a Chicago native. The Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, DCASE, is proud to be a partner and collaborator in bringing these events to life across many of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods. These citywide events highlight Chicago's ongoing commitment to celebrating while supporting jazz and the broader arts community. Following the festivities in celebration of International Jazz Day, the Chicago Jazz Festival, presented by DCASE, returns September 3rd to September 6, 2026, as part of a full season of cultural programming across the city. Stay tuned for additional event information, including the performance lineup, by visiting chicagojazzfest.us and following our Instagram at ChicagoDCASE. I'd now like to introduce Artistic Director of the Chicago International Film Festival, Mimi Flochet.
Thank you so much, Natasha. We love partnering with you, and we love being here at the Cultural Center in the beautiful Claudia Cassidy Theater. As Natasha mentioned, my name is Mimi Flochet, and I'm Artistic Director of the Chicago International Film Festival. The festival is honored to be co-hosting this highly anticipated International Jazz Day panel, Jazz Film and the Improvisational Architecture of Storytelling. A big thank you to all of our many partners at the Herbie Hancock Institute for Jazz. Thank you so much, Manuel and Yakiv. The Chicago Jazz Alliance, the Riva and David Logan Center for the Arts, the City of Chicago's Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, and of course, the Chicago Film Office. At this year's 62nd edition of the Chicago International Film Festival in October, I wanted to mention that we are thrilled to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of our Black Perspectives program. Thank you, yeah. So for 3 decades, the festival's Black Perspectives program has celebrated the richness of Black culture, history, and depth of imagination through cinema. Born in 1997 with a tribute to Spike Lee and a very early retrospective of his work, the festival's desire to showcase the breadth of Black American and diasporic experience is stronger than ever now. Through screenings, tributes, panels, and showcases, as well as master classes, we bring cinema to the community. Black Perspective operates as an intentional, collaborative lens that uplifts the voices of remarkable filmmakers and creatives, serving as a beacon for local and global film communities. I think a number of our Black Perspectives committee members are here, so thank you for all of the work that you do to support this great initiative. We did have the honor of hosting one of today's panelists in 2022, Kris Bowers, who he presented a master class at the festival as part of our industry days this year. And I'm just excited to learn from Kris himself that he's been in touch with many of the young composers that came to that master class, and I think some of them are here. So this is the type of work that we love to do with our industry days program, and specifically with the Black Perspectives program. So I am delighted to introduce the moderator for today's panel, Sandra Evers-Manley. Sandra is president of the Black Hollywood Education and Resource Center, now also in its 30th year, supporting emerging filmmakers. She is an Emmy Award-winning executive producer and a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So please extend a very warm welcome to Sandra.
What good day, everyone. I am truly excited to be here today. I don't know about you, but I feel the electricity in the room. Here we are at the epicenter of the 2026 International Jazz Day, celebrating, lifting up, giving honor to one of the greatest gifts to the world, jazz, and its art form shaped by blues, spirituals, ragtime, and so much more. It draws its inspiration from the texture and rich soil of the Black experience. This cultural phenomenon brings about unity, peace, harmony. Just look around the room. This is the 15th year celebrating International Jazz Day. How amazing is that? Let's give it a round of applause. Thank you to UNESCO, the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz, to the host city, Chicago, and to our host committee. Poet Carl Sandburg once referred to Chicago as being the city of big shoulders. That title seems to be perfect for today. We get to converse with some of jazz's greatest legendary giants, whose mighty shoulders are awfully big when it comes to the music of jazz. They have not only given us great music, but on their shoulders today, so many jazz artists stand. Family, and I do call everybody family. Today, we're among jazz royalty. I mean, honestly, these powerful artists have carved out paths and careers that serve both as a blueprint and as a dream. Today, we will discuss jazz, the art of film composing and scoring. We will talk about jazz not only as a musical tradition, but as a creative philosophy, and highlight just how these individuals you will meet shortly has brought to us not only great music, but great composing, great scoring through television and film. Let's take a look.
Sometimes, to survive, we must become more than we were programmed to be.
My great-granddaddy, he was a slave. We're not slaves now. We've got weapons we didn't have before. We've got the law.
Baby, you go into these towns, you'll never seen a Negro lawyer.
Hey, boy!
You need to be careful. NAACP.
Very good. You're going to Connecticut.
Joseph Spell, Negro servant, attacked socialite in our own bedroom.
This case will show the world if a colored man can get a fair trial in the United States.
There's only 13 million Negroes depending on you.
Don't any of you have any confidence in me? I'd say you have enough confidence for us all.
I only represent innocent people, people accused because of their race. That's my mission.
I never touched that woman.
I need a partner who the jury can relate to.
Sam Friedman.
Good to meet you, Sam. Hey, give me a hand with these, would you?
What have you got in here, cement?
Guns. Books, Mr. Friedman.
I had homies in 11th grade doing gun trades.
You just sweep through town, stirring up all kinds of ugliness. My life is on the line here.
Hey, Attorney Friedman, hold on a minute.
What do you want?
You're one of us now, Sam.
A real fighter.
Step away, you can't take the heat on the battleground.
Neither of them have been telling us the truth.
He attacked me.
I'd advise him to accept the deal.
You lied in a sworn statement. Why would you do that?
Why'd I lie? Because the truth gets me killed.
Can't deny me now. Tunnel vision.
If you want freedom,
Have it down on a mission.
you're gonna have to fight for it.
Stop me now.
The only way to get through a biggot's door is to break it down.
And we fear no pain. I offer you a choice. Fight or we die.
Ready for war. Where you
To be a warrior, you must kill your tears.
We are the spear of victory! We are the blade of freedom! We are the Dahomey!
Don't know. Take my power, my power, my power.
Day of the Geechee is gone, boy. And you going with it. We can't let nobody go on believing we all fools like you. Waited a long time for you, boy. But I got you. I put 2 Geechees in jail in Camp Campbell, Kentucky. 3 in Fort Huachuca. Now I got you. One less fool for the race to be ashamed of.
So how many of you knew they were doing all that while giving us great albums and music to dance to? Pretty powerful. I know many of you are asking, where's Terrence Blanchard? Unfortunately, he's unable to be with us today due to flight delays. But I'm gonna give you a homework assignment, because believe it or not, he's been working, composing, and scoring his next film, working with the powerhouse director, Gina Prince Bythewood. So on January 17, 2017, this film will come out, and we will pay tribute to Terrence, who is doing an amazing score and composition. I know some people are saying, how does she know? I got a sneak preview. And you are gonna be blown away. So in its absence, let's give a round of applause to the great Terrence Blanchard. And now let's bring up these amazing artists. We're first gonna start with the youngest. In my house, they would call him the youngin'. Gifted pianist, director, and composer. a former Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz Competition Award winner for piano. He has composed for countless films and TV series, such as When They See Us, the remake of The Color Purple, Bridgerton, Green Book, and one of my personal powerful favorites, the great Ava DuVernay's Origin, to name a few. Listen to this. This young man is a two-time Oscar nominee and Oscar winner for his directing work on the 2024 Academy Award-winning documentary, The Last Repair Shop. And he was nominated in 2025 for a stellar composition for the animation film, The Wow Robot. Please, let's give a round of applause to the gifted Mr. Kris Bowers. Kris? All right. Some people say he was born with a bass. The legendary bassist and composer and producer, the UNESCO Artist for Peace, is a two-time Grammy Award-winning artist and has helped shape the sound of modern jazz, R&B, film scoring, and so much more. From his groundbreaking work with the legendary Miles Davis on Tutu, for collaborations with artists like Luther Vandross, Herbie Hancock, Aretha Franklin, his influence is far-reaching. As a solo artist and film composer, he has lent his sound to some of the most powerful and successful films, such as Marshall, Sydney, as well as Safety, Think Like a Man, Breaking It All, Rules, Deliver Us from Evil, Eva, Above the Rim, Boomerang, and House Party, which so many of us danced to for many years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the extraordinary bass man, the remarkable Mr. Marcus Miller. And lastly, we have someone who certainly needs no introduction, but deserves all the honor. His genius and mastery has become the North Star throughout the modern history of music. This true peacemaker and cultural treasure has turned a remarkable path from the roots of this very city into a lifelong legacy of impact and revolutionary vision that continues to inspire us all. This iconic and pioneering musician, Herbie Hancock, is the heart of jazz. He has been playing, composing, and elevating music innovation for over 60 years. The 14-time Grammy-winning musician also serves, as you know, as chairman of the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz. A Grammy Hall of Fame inductee, he has quite literally transformed the world of music and art dedicated to jazz. With more than extensive legacy in composing and crafting films, he has shared his singular sound on iconic films such as Blowout, Harlem Night, the great Norman Jewison's A Soldier's Story, Living Large, Action Jackson, JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling, and of course, the classic film for which he won the 1987 Academy Award for. You ready? Round Midnight. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored. We give honor to the amazing, legendary composer, musician, the iconic Mr. Herbie Hancock. Well, welcome, gentlemen. So great to see each of you. I am so excited to be able to moderate this panel, and we're going to get right into it. Hey, Herbie.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I am doing great, too. I'm telling you, this stage is hot, people. It is hot. We are here celebrating International Jazz Day, and I will just tell you, thanks to Herbie and the Institute and UNESCO and our presenting sponsors, we've been all over the city of Chicago over these last couple of days and more. And to see young people, students, get to introduce some of them to jazz has been exciting. And so we're gonna start there with the foundation. I'd like to start with you, Kris. What is jazz?
Oh, man. Just to start with the easy question. First of all, thank you all for coming. And any pictures, you can send them to me and my mom, because this is a pretty wild moment for me. I feel like these men are, I had a poster of Herbie in my bedroom, and thinking about being a film composer and a jazz musician, these were the examples. And so it means a lot to be up here. And that was me stalling to figure out what is jazz. I would say, I think it's just the honest expression of one's self musically, and it being rooted musically in the, rooted in African music, but also the intermixing of so many cultures, and also at the same time, this democratic process of listening and creating with a community of people at the same time.
Love it. Thank you, Kris. Same question for you, Marcus.
Okay, so around 1930, Duke Ellington took his band to Europe, to England, to perform. And the critics, after the performance, said, this music, which we've never heard before, could have only been created in America, because it's a mix of European melodies, and it was Europe in 1930, so savage, rhythmic, African rhythms. But the thing, they got that weird because they were weird then, but the point that they got right is it is truly an American creation. It was created by folks who were ex-slaves, but who got exposed to melodies from Europe, French melodies, English melodies, rhythms that came from Africa and also from up in the Caribbean. And it all came together, I think mostly in New Orleans. There was a place called Congo Square in New Orleans. And all, no matter what your job was, you got off on Sundays. So all the ex-slaves and everybody would congregate in Congo Square, and they'd bring whatever they had to the party. So you got these incredible rhythms, you got these beautiful melodies, and it just all coalesced into this wonderful music. The word jazz was not originally a complimentary term. When you took a French song and you added all this rhythm and blues, you basically jazzed it up, and that was not a good thing, But like so many things in African American culture, you take the words that originally had negative meanings and you flip it. And so this word that was originally a pejorative term ended up being America's cultural calling card, because like the English recognized, this could only happen in America. It ended up being the backdrop, the musical score for the French Revolution. It ended up being music that meant so much to so many people around the world. And the main elements, and Herbie, you can correct me, is the blues, which you can trace back to West Africa, and improvisation, making stuff up. Because no matter what the song began with, there was always somebody adding something to it. When you heard Louis Armstrong play a melody, he played a melody right the first time. Second time was his. Second time he's going to add some sauce to it. And that was the beginning of this improvisational history And you were sitting next to the master here, you know. He has no idea what he's gonna play until he touches that first note on the piano. And then all of a sudden, it's magic. And that's the long way to express jazz, to define jazz.
Thank you, Marcus. All right, Herbie, over to you. Same question. What is jazz that hasn't been covered?
Well, Wayne Shorter used to say, jazz means, I dare you. That's scary, right?
Yeah.
And I understand what he means, but, you know, I think more about, and this is typical Herbie Hancock talking about exploring. It means exploring what comes from your own life of living as a human being. Every person has both a shared story but their own individual story. Because you share it because you have friends, you have people that you've met, you've had people that you read about, but you also have your own life experience and how you deal with issues of the day and of the year. Today, everybody's got issues. Things are rough today. You know, but that's like the fodder that you use for creativity, to apply sound to something that you feel in the moment, at that moment. You know, sometimes, as it was so funny, as Marcus was saying, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna play, really, until I actually get my fingers or a finger near a note or near a chord. And it's really starts from there. Because no matter what happens before that, once you make that first plink, or play a key, or blow through a horn, a note, you don't know what it's going to be after that.
Great.
And that's the beauty of it, because it really is in the moment.
Wow.
Just like living, right?
Just like living.
We're in the moment.
Absolutely, in a moment. Thank you, Herbie. I'm going to transition a little, and we're going to start talking about film. Okay. And I want to hear from each of you. Did you choose composing, or did composing choose you? Marcus, we're going to start with you.
Composing absolutely chose me. I was making records with folks like Luther Vandross, like you mentioned, and Miles, and a gentleman named Reginald Hudlin reached out to me. He said, I just got out of film school, and when you go to film school, you have to make your senior thesis is basically a short film. So he said, my short film that I did film school got picked up by this new film company called New Line Cinema.
Oh, whoa, whoa.
They saw it and they said, we want to make this into a feature film. And he said, I would like you to do the music for it. And I said, well, I don't really do film music. He said, well, I'm a fan of your music and I'm sure you'll do a great job. So he sent me the VHS tape. Some of y'all don't know what a VHS tape is. But he sent me a copy of the movie and he said, you know, go at it. So I wrote some stuff. I watched the scene a few times, started improvising music that I thought would be appropriate for the scene. And I got into it. Next thing you know, I had like this whole opus, right? So Reggie comes in to hear what I'm up to, and he's listening. He's going, oh man, that's so good, oh man. And then at the end he goes, one problem, I can't hear a word that my actors are saying. And I said, oh, that might be something to take into consideration, right? So my point is, he threw me in the water, you know, and I trialed and errored my way through it, and eventually, you know, figured out what works, what doesn't work. But some of the stuff I'm most proud of is the stuff I did in that early era before I knew all the rules. You know, like Eddie Murphy's Boomerang. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just making something funky under Eartha Kitt going, Marcus, darling. You know?
Hey!
But eventually, you know, you learn the rules and you decide what you're gonna embrace, which rules you're gonna embrace and which ones you're gonna ignore. And that becomes your thing. And you know, I kept getting calls, you know, from different people, you know, Keenan Ivory Wayans and, you know, Jamie Foxx movies, Samuel L. Jackson movies, and next thing I know, I'm a film composer.
All right. All right. We love it. All right, Herbie. Did you choose composing or did composing choose you?
Well, actually, I got called to do a film score. I knew nothing about doing film scores. And the film was not Blowout, it was Blow Up.
Blow Up, all right.
That was it. By Antonioni, amazing film director.
Hear, hear.
I didn't know who he was. I knew nothing about doing a film score. And he was a big jazz fan. And so I knew he wanted jazz. And I saw, you know, part of the film that he was working on. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I figured, okay, I've worked with a lot of amazing jazz players. I was living in New York at the time. And, but first I had to see the film, and I had to fly to London to see it. And so what he wanted musicians from England to do the score. So I wrote some things. We recorded some things, and I really wasn't happy with the way they played it. And and Antonioni and I both were a little uncomfortable with how that was going. And so, actually, he came up with a little plan. Now, this is really funny. So what we did, it has to do with actually finances for the film, right? You're supposed to be using the, you know, so you guys can keep a secret, right? So it's, you know, you're using money that's coming from, I guess, connected with the government and, you know. So what they decided to do was, because Canada is right next to the United States, and the musicians I wanted to use were in the United States. This is really crazy. So we said, we want to re-record the music in Canada. I flew to Canada, you know, got musicians together. We recorded what I had written, you know, knowing full well we weren't going to use that, right? And then I snuck back on a plane and flew to New York and got people like Ron Carter on bass and Freddie Hubbard.
Ah, whoa.
You know, so I got, you know, American musicians, guys that I knew, you know. I think Jack DeJohnette did some, Tony Williams did a part of it.
Wow.
Then I took it back to London and played it for Antonioni. And he's listening to it. And I saw a big smile on his face. and he could recognize the sound. I mean, he knew jazz that well that he recognized the sound of some of the musicians, you know, and which really shocked me. And anyway, they put out the film. And it actually, I think it won some awards. I don't know what it got. I don't think I got any awards for it, but the film got some awards.
All right.
So I guess everybody was happy.
Bravo, bravo. All right, Kris.
That Canadian guy sounds like Freddie Hubbard.
Yeah, right. Right.
All right, Kris, I am just curious. I've known this young man since he was in high school, so I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I had very intense parents when I was a kid, and they decided before I was born they wanted me to play piano, and they're not musicians. My dad just was obsessed with the Williams sisters' family and Tiger Woods' family, so my dad was very intense. And but they had me playing piano at a young age, but the thing that made me fall in love with it was when I started playing jazz, because I started improvising, and I realized that it became a way for me to have this expression and this secret communication. And I have this core memory of being angry with my parents and deciding to play piano from this angry headspace. And 30 minutes later, I wasn't as angry anymore, but also I felt like I knew exactly what I was saying and how I was expressing myself, and nobody else in the house knew what I was saying. And so that was the thing that made it so that nobody had to tell me to practice. It was like this therapeutic way for me to just be in this headspace and not feel like I could talk to people about being sad or anxious or angry, and I could just play piano from that headspace. And so then I started listening to film music because my dad was a huge film nerd, essentially. And I realized that I could listen to the scores from those movies and feel the same emotional journey just listening to the music that I could when I watched the film. Wow. And so when I was 12, my parents were like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are you going to do when you go to college? And I told them I want to go to school for jazz piano, and I want to, try to find success as a jazz musician, and then eventually transition into film scoring. And the film scoring was the goal. And so I told people, I told anybody that would listen about that when I was a kid. And then fast forward, actually after the Institute competition, I got a record label and or a record deal, and I was touring. And a friend of mine who I was in a high school all-star jazz band with came to a show of mine, and he was like, I remember when we were kids, you used to talk about being a film composer. And I've been following your career, and I really love your music, and I'm producing this documentary about Kobe Bryant. And would you want to score it? And I thought, he was my age, so I thought it was a bunch of kids trying to follow Kobe around. But it was a very, he was like, okay, the first meeting is going to be with Kobe. You have to go and sit with him.
Wow.
And basically talk to Kobe about how much you're obsessed about your craft. And if you convince him you're as obsessed about your craft as he is about basketball, then you'll get the job, essentially. And we just had a conversation about, he loves John Williams. He didn't know very much about jazz, and we talked about jazz. And then the next day he had watched a John Coltrane documentary and like read a bit of John Coltrane's biography, and like he just was that kind of sponge. But in that first meeting, he told me, he's like, look, I think you obviously are obsessed about your craft. Just watch this film. It's obviously about my life, but for each scene, think about what that reminds you of in your own life and tap into that emotion that you feel and write music from that place, and it'll be great. And that's been my process ever since. And that project kind of led to, pretty much from that project to today, I've had things kind of spark from that. So that was the first thing.
Bravo, love it. All right, we're gonna have to breeze through. I don't want this audience getting mad at me. So we've got some young people who reached out to us. They heard about this panel and they said, we've got to go to school, but would you show our video? So let's show the first video with their question.
Hello, Mr. Hancock, Mr. Blanchard, Mr. Miller, and Mr. Bowers. It's an honor. My name is Braylon McCune. I'm 9 years old, from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm in the 4th grade. I love jazz music, and I'm a young film director. My question for each of you is, how do you prefer working with a film director, and what makes a great film score or a song? Thank you.
All right, Marcus, take it away.
You run into a lot of different film directors, and each one has their own style. Some of them are real music heads, and they know exactly what they want to feel, and they know exactly how to explain it. And then you have other film directors who don't know anything about music, but you don't make the mistake of thinking that they don't know what they're doing. They just don't have the language, right? So the first thing I want to do with a film director is talk to them about music and let them do the talking so that I can hear their references, their musical references, hear what they say. You know, they'll name some artist who's central to their life who I never heard of, and I will go and do research on that artist so that I know, okay, this is at the center of this director's world. And oftentimes, almost every time, they put a temporary music score under a movie. It's called the temp score. And the temp score is there to give the composer, to give us an idea, a general idea of what kind of moods they want to set for each scene. It's not a real score, because a real score ties the whole film together, right? It has themes that you hear consistently through the film that gives you a sense of a unified story. The temp score doesn't usually have that. It just has music from various films. But the director says, you know, you hear this that I put here, it's not right, but I do like this quality about it. So I like directors who are really confident, even if they don't know the musical language, because some directors feel intimidated because they don't know what an oboe is, or they don't know what a retardando is. I'll tell you, this doesn't have to do with film, but Luther Vandross was a perfect example, because he didn't know all the technical terms, but he'd listen to the mix and he'd say, it's not right. I say, what's wrong with it? Do you want more bass drum, or do you want more orchestration? He goes, no, I want it to sound like Skippy Peanut Butter Chunky kind. not the smooth kind. So I'd say, got it, engineer, hey man, I need it to sound less smooth. I need things to jump out in the mix, right? He said, I don't like the bass drum. I said, what's wrong with the bass drum? You want it to be more like, have more low end, more bass to it? He said, no, I want it to sound like my refrigerator door when it closes, right? And he wasn't afraid to use those descriptions, you know, where somebody else would be like, well, I don't really know the technical terms. He didn't care about the technical terms. And sometimes his layman's descriptions were even more clear than the technical descriptions. So a director who's really in tune with what music does for them is really the most helpful thing.
Thank you. Any thoughts on your end, Kris?
Yeah, I mean, definitely that. I feel like it's always interesting where I have one director that thinks that the piano is too melodramatic, and then the next director that wants everything to be piano. And so it's so subjective that having those conversations about what instruments, what music means to each person, I feel like is super valuable. And the only other thing I would add is I found that understanding the story and like the psychology of these characters, I feel like once I have the conversation about sound and music, I try not to talk about that really anymore at all and just focus more on understanding the story as best as I can so that I can then talk to the director about, this character is making this choice in this moment, but when this character says this line, that actually is speaking to something that happened to this character before, and so there has to be a shift there for that reason, or even though this character feels like a villain, we know that there's complexity behind that, so the music can't paint this person like a villain. It has to have some of that complexity in it. And so I feel like also helping the director to feel comfortable just talking in story terms and talking to me like an actor, essentially, can be really helpful for us to just talk about the emotion and to, like Marcus says, have them speak in a language that they're comfortable speaking with so they can talk about this needing to feel nostalgic or conflicted or tense or any of these other things, and I can know what that means musically, or they trust me to interpret how to address that musically.
Wow, thank you, Kris. Herbie, any thoughts on your end?
Well, I was very lucky that I had directors that weren't difficult to work with. There are a lot of them that are difficult to work with. I was really lucky. I never got the difficult ones, And I was able to communicate with them easily. They didn't always know the musical language, but no problem with the communication. Problem happens, here's where problems happen. On the day when they have to mix the dialogue, right, and the music, and the, what do they call it?
Special effects.
Oh, yeah, and the effects. Wait, what's the other name they have? That's another word.
Foley?
Foley, yeah, right. The different sound effects, whether it's like knocking on something or scratching or something, There's a fight in the engineer's booth because there's like one person mixes the voices, of the actors, and one of them mixes the sound effects, which is like, could be wind, it could be anything, or car, and driving on a road or something, or out in the country. And then the third one is the music. So there's always a fight, right?
Right. Right. That's right.
Like a three-man duel. Yeah. You don't ever want to be in that, right? Right. I mean, would you ever invite anybody who's like a music lover to come, or a film lover to come in?
No. Now, the guy who handles the dialogue, he's usually the boss, right? He usually wins the fights, right?
Yep. I know. Sometimes the Foleys, I have a problem with Foley sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Foleys, we're sorry.
Sound effect.
All right, we have another student that's got a question. We're going to turn it over to her.
Hello, my name is Babe. I go to the University of Southern California, and my question is, how does your process usually begin when choosing music for films?
How's it begin?
Kris?
Yeah, for me, it goes back to my process when I was a kid, really, where basically I'll read the script or I'll watch the film a number of times, and I don't think about music. I just wait to see what am I responding to, because there's always a moment, either an idea or a scene that just involuntarily makes me emotional. And I'm not a very emotional person just in my life generally, but I feel like music and story is kind of the only thing that helps me access those feelings in an involuntary way. And so I think, therefore, I trust it because it feels honest, because I'm not, trying to feel something. It just happens. And so when I find that moment, I go to the piano and I improvise, trying to find a way to make myself feel the same way. So I'm basically just trying to re-trigger those same emotions. And sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes I study and I'll look at other pieces of music that make me feel that way and try to analyze, is there something about the tempo or the instrumentation or the harmony or something that I can look at that helps me feel that way. And then I'll still go back to the piano and say, this harmony is really interesting. Now let me improvise on that harmony and see if I find something. And then once I find something that I feel like represents that feeling or makes me feel involuntarily like that, I then go back to the picture and act as an accompanist, essentially, and just kind of play to the scene and see if it works. And then I find that, oh, this actually works if I put it on this instrument, or if it works if I slow it down or speed it up. And the last thing I'll say is I have a process that I will find something that I think works pretty well, and then I go to the piano in our living room, and I either tell my wife that I'm gonna play something and ask her what she thinks it makes her feel, or I don't say anything at all. And I just start playing something, and I will eventually ask her how it makes her feel. And it's always fascinating to me, the moments where she feels the exact emotion that I was trying to convey without knowing anything tied to it. Like for Origin, for example, there's a moment where the character is Isabel Wilkerson, the author, and she had a trauma that happened in her life. And there's a piece that I wrote for that moment, and I went to the piano and started playing it on piano and asked my wife, what does this sound like to you? And she was like, I don't know, it sounds like somebody, something terrible happened and they're trying to pick up the pieces of their life and figure out how to put it back together.
Wow.
And so I think that's like the reason why I even want to do this, is like that kind of unspoken communication that happens. And I feel like whenever that feeling is triggered involuntarily in people, that's when there's something honest there.
As young people say, you did that. I've watched that movie 9 times, and every time I cry. And it's the music.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Marcus, any thoughts on your end?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that as jazz musicians, I think we have a certain advantage, because I remember asking the guy who was operating, he was a music supervisor, and he brought the film over, and I'm watching it, and I'm playing the piano as it's going on, just trying to just play what I feel while I'm watching it. And he goes like, you can do that? And he said, most composers, they watch, and then they get a pen and paper, and they start writing, and they play a couple of notes on the piano. But you're just describing accompanying the scene, like you're accompanying a jazz singer. You know what I mean? When she goes up, you say, okay, let me help you out here, And so I think that's, that really helps, And I've done the same thing. I've played a piece in the living room and wait for Brenda to say something, And she says, that's really beautiful. And I'm like, man, that's not what I was going for.
Oh, wow.
Dang, play that again, it's beautiful. Back to the drawing board, But I think the improvisation thing is really, it's helpful.
Great. All right, Herbie, anything on your process for this young lady? I will tell you, the first thing she said is, well, Mr. Hancock really answered my question. So over to you, my friend.
I was just thinking about when I did the film Around Midnight. It was kind of an unusual situation. I don't think either of you have had a chance to do anything like this, to actually be in the film.
Right.
As an actor, and do the film score, and play in the film, right? So it was a lot of work. Because I had to learn the script, and deliver it. But it was filmed in Paris, right? And every night the director would have, or every afternoon, or in the evening, could be in the evening. The director would have a meal at some restaurant with the musicians. And he would listen to the conversations, because the film was about musicians, jazz musicians. So he would listen to the musicians that were actors in the film. You know, many of them didn't have speaking roles like I did, or some had very few. But Dexter Gordon, saxophone player, had a large role in the film. I mean, he was actually the main character in the film. And Wayne Shorter had a few lines he had to deliver. Anyway, the director would, because the film was about jazz musicians, he would listen to our conversations and sometimes rewrite parts of the script based off of things that we said to each other in conversations at the dinner. And the next day, we go in and there's like a different kind of script, you know? But it was really hip the way he did it. So it was like teamwork doing that film. And we also had some difficulties because the film was about African-American jazz musician being an expatriate, moving to France because of racism in the States. And there were many musicians that did that. And they got married in Europe. And anyway, Dexter had been one of those. And he was actually the main character in the film Around Midnight. The strange thing was that the woman he was married to at that time, first of all, let me tell you, the film was about a musician who had a drinking problem. First he had a drug problem, but he fixed that. Then he had a drinking problem. And that was interfering with his performances at a club. Dexter's wife was actually starting to give him, he had quit drinking. His wife started giving him alcohol, right? And it was like life following art.
Right.
Which was really strange. But then she got caught doing that, and they barred her from actually coming to this.
Wow, wow.
Right. And the character actually at that time was going through the same thing. The character that Dexter was playing was going through the same thing. See, people don't know that. Nobody's written about that.
He wasn't acting there.
No. He was actually experiencing that. So, but it was a wonderful experience for me. And it happened at a really amazing time. And the rest of my recording music life, because I had just recorded Rocket. And it had just been released in Europe, because there used to be a time difference between when it was released in America and when it was released in the rest of the world. But when I got over there, Rocket was huge. And people were doing, they called it the Smurf, but it was breakdancing. And they called it Smurf, right? And so shooting the film, they didn't start, in the States, they start maybe 6 o'clock in the morning when they start shooting the film, or even earlier. But they didn't start until like noon. And they provided, this has nothing to do with any of this question.
You are Herbie Hancock, okay?
So you don't mind me taking over for a
No,
second?
you taking over, I'm good.
So anyway, the film company had an apartment for me there. And they hired someone because they knew I had to do the music and then I had to do some acting. And so they hired a guy to come, hired someone to come and like clean the room and maybe make breakfast for me if I needed to. And, but then that would be it. But I know I'm not a morning person, right? So I devised this plan. I said, you know, actually, I got a lot of my ideas at night. Mm-hmm. And I would hate to have to get up and go to a restaurant and go and order some food, you know, take my concentration away. So if this person could actually work later in the day and provide food for me for dinner, then I could continue to work. Anyway, they kind of hemmed and hawed about it, but eventually they caved. They caved in. And so I got what I wanted, which was really cool. Because the guy, it was a guy that came over to do the room. He was actually a teacher in school also. He taught in, I think, a high school, but he was also going to school. But anyway, he was from Côte d'Ivoire. So he spoke French and English. And so I would take him out to the clubs. He would be my interpreter. And I went to the clubs because they would just let me in when they found out, you know, that I wrote Rocket. And so in the daytime, I would be, you know, doing this film. And at night, I was hanging out at clubs, having a great time, you know. And actually, we barely had enough music, original music, because you have to have original music for film.
Right.
There was barely enough original music to qualify to be nominated even for an Oscar. I mean, I was like right on the edge of it.
Because
right?
you were doing like round midnight songs that already existed also in the score.
Yeah.
So that didn't count as original music.
What?
Did you needed more original music because some of the music you were using?
Oh yeah, because we were playing songs that were
Right.
all the songs that were played there were not songs written by me.
Right.
Some were like a lot of like tunes songs that jazz musicians would play in a club.
Right.
Written by many composers. So the other stuff that I had to write for different scenes at the beach, for example, or on the street, or different things that were happening, conversations. So anyway, it was a wonderful time for me in Paris.
All right, let's hear it for Herbie. All right, we're gonna turn up the house.
Then I came back. Well, wait, I came back.
You came back,
And
yeah.
then I got invited to go to the Oscars because I was nominated.
Okay.
You know, first was a surprise of even being nominated. I was stunned, you know, and I got there, and Bette Midler was announcing. No, she said, I love the fact that I had to, you know, be the person announcing this scoring. You know, you're right. People laughed.
All right, we're going to turn up the house lights real quick. I just got a tap on the shoulder to say, Sandra, we promised we'd be on time, so I'm going to keep my promise. We want to give the audience an opportunity to ask a couple questions. We know how much you love these individuals, so if you want to ask a question, we've got monitors in the room with mics. Just raise your hand quickly. All right. All right, go ahead with your question. We're going to try to at least get 5 in before our call time.
My question for you is, how much do you feel your job as a composer for a film is to enhance what's already in the film or to compensate for the things that are lacking in a given scene?
And we're going to play speed dating, so we're going to have one person, unfortunately, because of time. Marcus, you want to take that one?
50-50. Sometimes the scene is there already, all the emotions are right, and you're just there to underscore what's happening. Other times they'll say, the actor didn't deliver the emotion that I need here, and guess whose job it is now? And then you have to kind of pull it out, you know. So it happens both ways.
All right, next question.
Based on the soundtrack to your film, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, except for the last 2 measures. Where do those 2 measures come from?
I have no idea.
Thank you.
All right, next question. We're going to get 5 in.
Got one right here.
For Marcus Miller, I just wanted to ask, how long does it typically take, and what is the shortest time that it's taken for you to compose a film for a full movie?
There was an independent film that was filmed in Madrid that starred Ellen Barkin, and they used as their temp score Miles' Sketches of Spain. But they couldn't use that because it was Sketches of Spain already. So they called Miles and said, look, could you create some original music for this? And Miles gave him my number. And so I said, hello. They said, we have a couple of scenes where we need some music. We need you to write it for Miles, which I did. And I handed in the second one. They said, okay, so for the next scene, I said, wait, am I scoring this whole movie? Because Miles didn't tell me that, you know? Miles actually didn't tell me anything, you know? And I said, okay, when is this thing due? And they said, in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so I literally locked myself in the studio day and night. I slept only as much as I needed to just to kind of keep going. And I saw a picture of myself in the middle of that, and I didn't even recognize myself. But I got it done. The last scene, I know we're time crunched. Last scene, I was striking out. The director said, oh, that's not what I need. It's not what I need. I called Miles. I said, man, I'm striking out on this last scene. He said, come to my house. He was having a party when I got there. He just locked me in a room with Spanish music because it was called Siesta, and it was all Spanish themed. He locked me in a room with Spanish music, and I just sat there for about 45 minutes. The idea hit me. He said he just saw me running out of his house, you know. I ran, I recorded the song, played it for the director, and I wasn't even gonna look at her, because if I missed it this time, I wouldn't know what to do. And I finally turned around, and she was just in tears, crying. And
wow.
I said, Miles, you know, that really worked? He said, of course it did, I told you, you know.
All right, over here.
How you doing? Actually, I have 2 questions.
One.
I started playing piano when I was young. I stopped like an idiot, and I started back about 5 years ago. And actually, I'm working on a song now, All Blues with Miles Davis. The problem with that is, in terms of reading music, it's very easy for me. But when I sit down and try to play it, you know, I'm thinking it all the way through. Do you have any suggestions that I should do to try to get it right on the piano. And let me just ask one quick question.
All right, Kris, you're going to take this one for us.
This is for Marcus Miller. That bass riff that you did for Luther Vandross, Never Too Much, could you explain what happened with that? I think you were, at one point, you said you were just messing around, and Nat Adderley Jr., which was a piano player, told you not to do it, and then he heard it, and then you put that in the song. Can you go into a little bit of depth with that, please?
Well, I'll let Herbie tell you how to play all blues first. Yeah, Herbie said,
All right, we got two piano men. Who's going to take it? Kris, you're going to go first, and then we'll let Herbie.
I would just say patience. I feel like that's really all it is at the end of the day. Just sticking with it. Yeah.
And you know how to read, so play without reading. And just get used to like finding it on your own and make mistakes and record everything you do so that when you find it, you don't run right past it, right? Never Too Much. Yeah, Luther and I were in Roberta Flack's band. He wanted to do a demo to see if he can get his own record deal. And Never Too Much was a song he wrote, and Nat Adderley arranged it. And I was 19 or 20 years old, so I was adding all sorts of stuff to it. And Nat, who was the arranger, was like, we don't need all that, Marcus, you know? And, but what I did get away with was the first note you hear on the record. I go, boom, doom, 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 doom. And Nat, you know, Luther said, we keeping that, Nat. And I was like,
All right, guess what? Never Too Much is a good ending point for us. We have heard from the giants. Let's hear it from Mr. Kris Bowers, Mr. Marcus Miller, and the legendary Mr. Herbie Hancock. Let's give them a wonderful round of applause.